People in my comments have been saying that I don't know how to animate, that I'm actually a fraud. You guys are underestimating my power! So in this video, I'll be proving my worth by animating for 30 days straight. And I'll be following this very simple plan. For the first 20 days, I'll be making small practice animations. So in the final 10 days, I'll use all the knowledge I've gained to make one big animation. So let's begin, shall we? In these earlier days, I wanted to tackle the basics of animation. You know, ease in, ease out, arcs, these type of stuff. So why not start by animating a ball bouncing up and down? And look at it looks pretty good, eh? What? Where did it go? Jesus Christ! For day 2, I wanted to study a very specific type of visual effect called Kutsuna lightning. This is a style of animating lightning streaks in a very wobbly, almost noodle-like way. And most of the time, the lightning itself is animated on once with a very thick brush. So I started experimenting around and animating a bunch of different wobbly green lines. I made them move from one point to another, animated them with multiple streaks from a singular lightning. I tried it with pen pressure turned on, and even charging this ball of energy. And you know, I actually had a ton of fun animating these, since you don't have to focus so hard to make them look right. And with that, we can move to day 3. In this day, I wanted to do something more complicated and fun at the same time without sucking the life force out of my body. So I settled for animating a simple character acting of Midoriya talking. I needed to practice drawing him because he will appear alongside another character in the final animation. So stick around to find out who this character is. So I began drawing my boy, and I already had an idea on how I was going to animate him. At the very bottom layer was going to be his body, in the second layer his mouth, and in the third his hand. For the animation itself, I did everything on 3s and 4s. And I also ended up cleaning everything, which was the most painful part of it all. And after adding some Genga colors and a slight camera movement, here's the final animation. Pretty cool, pretty neat, but it isn't as cool or neat as the thing I was about to study on day 4. What the hell? I wanted to study something called the Xeno hair, which is not the actual name of it, but I saw someone saying this online a few years ago, so I'm gonna call it that. Hashtag #IDeGaf. Basically, Xeno hair was quote-unquote created by Xenophos, or more commonly known as Wailing Zane. And to put it simply, it's just a very unique way to animate hair flapping in the wind. And I actually already tried to study this animation technique all the way back in my Invisible video. And I think I did a pretty good job back then, but I want to push it even further and understand the very core of it. However, before I started drawing any hair, I actually drew this head inspired by Hideyuki Yamashita's drawings. And only then I started drawing the Xeno hair. And to make a long story short, I realized I have to make the hair flaps have some sort of rhythm to them, or else it will look way too chaotic and not very pleasant to look at. On day 5, I soft locked in and made the animation a bit more sophisticated. I made 4 tiny animation loops that combined make one animation. One loop for the hair, another one for the clothes, one for this ice platform that this character is making, and the final one for some particles that are coming out of it. I also added some camera shakes to make everything more dynamic. And for the second shot, I kinda lost my motivation mid-animation, so it ended up looking a bit lazy. But anyway, here's the results. On day 6, I woke up with a massive headache. It was so painful, not a single thought could pass through my mind. But I tried to push through the pain, making those typical animations where the tall guy is fighting a short guy. But these were the unfortunate results. Yeah. This conveyed perfectly how I was feeling that day. We're now a week in this challenge, and I wanted to make up for the last day that ended up being wasted. This time around, I was inspired by Shinichiro Watanabe's Samurai Champloo. So, I started animating a samurai slashing the hell out of a poor training dummy. And for this animation, I used a straight ahead method of animating, which is good to make the animation more natural, but it sacrifices a bit of the consistency of it. I was quite happy with the progress of this animation in particular, and I wanted to continue it on day 8. But then, day 8 rolled by, and all I did was this.
You have to be joking, right?
So, yeah, this is how the final animation looks like. Day 9 was one hell of a good day, because I wanted to study Norio Matsumoto's work in Naruto, especially this part in the closer opening. And you know what? I did just that, bro. I really wanted to up my choreography game. So, studying this legendary action animator is the best way to go. The only problem was that I animated this character fighting alone. Like, he's fighting the air. Day 10, what did I even do day 10? Oh yeah. Day 10, I wanted to practice a bit of in-betweening. So I drew these two keyframes that were inspired by these drawings. That I think were also drawn by Hideyuki Yamashita, but I'm not sure. And instead of drawing this random ninja, I drew in although you can barely see him since it's only his mouth and a bit of his upper body, but okay. I also added a bit of camera shake to make everything more exciting. You know, the cherry on top. In day 11, I animated this.
What the hell is actually wrong with me, bro?
Day 12 and 13, I practiced the same thing in these days, so I'm putting them together. And the thing that I practiced was animating fire. Fire is a very subjective thing in animation. Everyone has its own way to animate it. For the first animation, day 12, I tried making it without much reference. And that backfired completely, I'm gonna be honest. It ended up not looking exactly how I wanted. I even tried to put some additional VFX on top of it to make it more complete. But it just didn't hit the spot, bro. The animation on day 13 was a different story. This time, I used some references, and this changed the game completely. I drew this thing that's supposed to be where the flames originate from. Then I drew the flames slowly starting to appear, and then boom! Look at this delicious impact frame. For the fire animation itself, I focused more on doing cool shapes to make it visually interesting. I also added the image of that thing that I drew being distorted by the fire. Day 14, we can call it a replay of day 3, but not actually. The reason why I say this is because we're going to be animating another small character acting cut. But this time, it's for the second character that's gonna appear on the final animation. And that will be Todoroki. I'm gonna be real, guys. Drawing Todoroki is a bit difficult. He has some nuances in his character design that if you don't get it, it kind of leaves you with an uncanny valley feeling. You know what I'm saying? For the animation though, it was pretty simple. I drew 4 mouth flaps and spaced them on 3s once again. This is an anime standard. And I animated the eyes blinking in 2s and 3s. And we cannot forget the slight pan to the left, and voila! We got our slightly off-model Todoroki animation. Day 15 was a special day because I made 2 animations. I was inspired to animate like the professional animator Bahi JD. He does this unique thing while animating that I think is safe to assume it's only him that does it. Well, he basically reuses some drawings in multiple frames, so I tried to replicate it. First one was a POV animation inspired by FPS games, and throughout the whole animation I only used 2 drawings, but because of the way that I manipulated those drawings, it makes it seem like there's more to it, and the finished result looks pretty cool if you ask me. Second animation was a run cycle inspired by this animation from Bahi JD, and the drawing that I reused was just simply the head. So the animation is basically this: 8 frames animation loop for the body and the hair. The head was copy and pasted throughout these 8 frames. I also drew some backgrounds, very simple though, to make everything look cooler. And this is how the animation turned out. Yeah, pretty cool, yeah. From day 16 to 20, I made a bunch of tiny animations that you've been seeing throughout this video. So there's nothing super important to highlight. So now we can finally start planning the big final animation. Per usual, on day 21, I started making some good old storyboards. I didn't spend too much time on the drawings themselves, but rather focusing on the purpose of each shot. And after finishing all the boards, I moved them to Milano. Milano is a tool for organizing creative projects that I've been using since day 1 of this challenge, mainly to track my progress and reference throughout the days and plan out the big animation. If I click on the subboard called References, it will show all the animation references I used throughout the days. Zooming in on day 1 through 5, for example, we can see where I took this reference from, what I was trying to achieve with them, and even notes after animating. I feel like I have to highlight this color picking tool because not only it gives you the name of the color, but also gives you the exact hex code. So you can just copy and paste this on your drawing software to get the exact color you picked. For this storyboard, I used one of the many free templates that Milano provides to you when you first open a board, and immediately started organizing it. I first threw all the images in the unsorted tab, then placed them in the correct order of the cuts. I also gave them a brief shot description alongside a to-do list with the stages of completion for each cut. And we cannot forget this big reference board for both characters that I'll be animating. Here, I gathered a bunch of images of them in different angles to make sure that the drawing process goes as smooth as possible. So if you want to use Milano to organize your creative project, all you need to do is either click in the first link in the description or in the pinned comment and create a free Milano account. Thank you Milano for sponsoring this video. And now with everything organized, I was ready to fully lock in and use all the knowledge that I gathered to make the best animation possible in this time frame. So without further ado, let's do this!
So what's it gonna be? You're trapped in a new world, a street by the three. Make your first move, so what's it gonna be? You're trapped in a new world, a street by the three. The third chapter, so what's it gonna be? The third strike, y'all, a street by the three.
Before I show you the final animation though, I will politely ask you to subscribe. Subscribing is the easiest way to help and motivate me to make more videos like this. Let me know in the comments if you were able to tell some similarities with the previous animations and this one. Thank you so much for watching, and here's the final animation.